Good afternoon. Please feel free to come in and sit down. I don't think it'll be that bad that you'll want to run out of the room unnoticed. So my name is Dave Galloway. I'm here with Trevor today from Zedi, and we're going to talk about Service Cloud. And before I do, I want to put some context around it because it's what guided a lot of the implementation. My background is I've been running service and support centers for the last 25 years. For any of you in the Vancouver area, I was with Crystal Decisions and then with Business Objects. I've run centers as large as 600 people worldwide. Recently finished with a company doing a mobile banking implementation, and which was, banking has to run 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and it has to be completely accurate all the time. So I'm trying to bring that kind of business background to the implementations we do with our customers, because it's more than just the technology that you're putting in place. It's how does this work for our customers and how does it work for their customers, and what's the business thinking behind it. So we try to bring both the business background as well as the technology background to it. There's a new set of research out by the CEB group. The book is called The Effortless Experience, and it will really change, I think, the way you may think about delivering customer service, and I think it's very, very important. It put into words a lot of things that I have seen in my experience over the years, but I had not been able to frame it that way. We used to do an awful lot of work trying to get to customer loyalty, and it's not actually about just customer satisfaction, according to this research, which is based on something like 97,000 companies with several million data points collected. It was a very large study. What they measure actually is loyalty according to things that are hard, like revenue, referrals, not just a net promoter score or I'm very satisfied kind of score, because in their research they found out that doesn't actually translate into revenue. Something like 20% of customers that said they were very satisfied were, at the moment they said that, they were already planning to leave that company. And at the flip side, 28% of customers that at the moment they said they were dissatisfied were planning to buy more from that company. It can really leave you scratching your head. So one of the things that they found out is that customer service is a big driver of loyalty, but currently in a lot of organizations it's a big driver of disloyalty. It can be a big driver of loyalty if you really try to focus on making a more effortless experience for the customer. So how do you do some of that? I'm simplifying a whole book here, but to try to give you some of the highlights that maybe you want to take away from this. And I think that the Service Cloud platform allows you to put a lot of this in place. That's why I'm excited about combining these two things. So the first one is let your customer talk to you and work with you in the channel of their preference. So now you can go with Salesforce, you can have phone, you can have chat, you can have web forms, you can have email. You can have even Twitter and the blogs and Facebook if they want to come in through that channel with Radian 6. All of this can come in and be presented into your service group as a case. So whatever channel they want to work with you in, you can work with them in that channel. And the key point here is it's less effort for your customer, and that's the kind of thing that will drive their loyalty over time. The other thing is that, I think that agents always actually want to help the customer, and a lot of times we put systems in front of them that they actually have to fight. The number of clients that we talk to that have 2, 3, 4, 5 systems that their agents have to access in order to get information to try to help a customer, we're certainly not making it effortless for the agent, and the agent has to spend more time doing administrative tasks and thinking about where stuff is, and they have less time to actually work with the customer and focus on the customer's problem. So we want to actually use our systems to automate as much as possible data collection, data validation, making sure that the right data is collected and something's not forgotten, and you'll see that's what we do in this implementation. And then the third big point is that the delivery should be about the experience, not just a technical answer. So, my mom used to tell us, it's not what you say, it's how you say it, at the dinner table. Well, in this case, it's actually what you say and how you say it that can make a difference. And if your agents don't have to worry so much about the admin and the technology, they can actually focus more on what they're saying and how they're saying it to the customer to improve their overall experience, so that the customer can come away with the sense that they had a more effortless experience in dealing with you. Most companies, this is right out of the book, most companies massively overestimate the value of trying to wow the customer. It's very, very hard for the average agent in a service center to truly wow a customer. They just don't really have the opportunity, and if they did, it's certainly not scalable from a time or a money standpoint. You'll have some heroes, you'll have some one-off situations, and everybody gets real excited about it. And I've certainly seen those, and when it's happened, it's fantastic. It's a great story. But it's not something you can do every day. A particular experience I had, I used to have to travel a lot, and I was at the Vancouver airport. Flight got canceled. Because I traveled a lot, I immediately was able to call the concierge for Air Canada and was very quickly put onto another flight. Meanwhile, the other, 175 people on that plane were lining up behind two agents, and were then going to take some of them I'm sure were there for 2 hours waiting while those two agents tried to rebook everybody. So on one hand, you can think that I had a wow experience. What I actually had was an effortless experience, right? It was just simple. I made a phone call, where do you want to go, blah, blah, blah. Literally 5 minutes later, I got my flight. And so that's the kind of thing you want to make possible for your customers. And if you do that, most companies grossly underestimate the value of just meeting customers' expectations. If you think of the airline model again, there are a whole host of service events when you take a flight that if the airline does not meet your expectations on, you will be dissatisfied. And so there's just a whole huge number of ways that the airline, as you know, can dissatisfy you. So let's just not dissatisfy people. And you'd be surprised how happy they will be to do repeat business with you. And that's this whole point. If you just focus on trying to do what you're normally supposed to do again and again and again in an effortless way for the customer, they will actually stay with you and be more loyal with you over time. So the big takeaway here is that, and as you'll see in the implementation, this is basically an out-of-the-box implementation. We did not need any kind of extra developers or extra data people involved with it, and yet we've made the system much more easy for the agents to use, and it's going to be a better experience for Zedi's clients. And so with that introduction, I'd have you think about effortless service for your organizations. I'm going to have Trevor come on up. Thank you, Trevor. Thank you.
Thanks, David.
Yeah.
Thanks, David. Well, hello, everybody. Thank you for giving me some of your time today, this afternoon, for this topic about the ultimate customer experience. And I apologize in advance. I'm not as great at public speaking as David, so I'll do my best. If I stammer, I apologize. My name is Trevor Gartner. I'm responsible for all three things enterprise at Zedi, from the data repositories to support to software, security of our data, all the middleware. If we use it internally to drive our business, that's what I'm accountable for. And what we're going to see today is a talk a bit about how we're working with Traction to help implement a brand new customer service platform. This is Zedi today. We offer oil and gas services from artificial lift, field instrumentation, data management, consulting services, and field services. The main point of this slide is to tell you that we're complex. Our solutions are not B2C. Our solutions are very complex, and therefore the support of those devices are quite hard to do as well. And I'm setting that up for a purpose because we're not a typical agent, typical customer. We're very different in that context. This is a quote from our customer service manager. We went to Dreamforce this last year, and she was amazed at what Service Cloud could offer out of the box. And through a combination of talks with Traction, talks with Service Cloud, folks, we've made an attempt to dive into the service space. We already have Salesforce in our environment today. We have the Sales Cloud portion of it and have had it for many, many years. And so we were going to drive to see if we could add some more value from the Salesforce platform. Before Service Cloud, it's important to know where we were at. We were a pretty good customer service space, right? We probably were in that 50, 60% customer satisfaction space. Nothing great. I wouldn't tell the world about it, but we weren't too bad. The problem is we wanted to improve our services, and the only way we could do that in the past was by adding more staff. Pretty typical. And we were very expensive. Our service team worked inside of our ERP. And then our ERP was built for our accountants. It really was not built for our service teams, and definitely not for our support teams. As I said before, our solutions are complex. What I call B2B or what I call B2 commercial. True, complex, technical services, hardware, software out in the field. Our service agents use 21 separate systems to solve customers' problems. And I'm not kidding you. That's a combination of browser, fat client, thin client. Imagine being an agent and having to literally log in to those systems separately to do one customer's request. It was quite cumbersome and slow. We're in multiple locations. We're in Edmonton, Calgary, Fort St. John, Fort St. Nelson, Lafayette, Louisiana. We're in Russia, Indonesia, and South America. So those are also challenges as well. Our closure time is long. What's complex about our services is oftentimes our workflow does not just include us to solve problems. It includes the customer and most often third-party agents in the field installing and supporting these services. So our service time could be minutes or it could be weeks or months depending on how remote some of our sites are in the field. So here's the challenge. 5 years ago when I started, we were 25 million and probably 3 products. Today, we're 125 million 5 years later and 36 products. And they're all complex. And so a challenge was brought forward at an executive level, kind of 9 main points from an enterprise perspective. And really the key here, there's 3 words that you should always remember. Delight the customer. That was the primary enterprise objective given to me to drive to fruition. Other things include seeing all my customers' data at one glance, a smart workflow, a configurator. What's different about our team is we're not just a support team, we're also a sales support team. Our sales center, or service center, is a profit center. It makes money. It generates sales for us, not just support. We want no orphans. Often today, our clients live in our services, in our ERP, in our CRM. We want no orphans of data. We want data ubiquity across our applications. And the big one for a lot of our agents is single sign-on. I want to hit every one of those 21 applications from one login. Believe it or not, that alone was worth doing the project. And lastly is meaningful BI. Now, you may also have the same challenges we had. Internally, we've got executives of all breeds, new school, old school, and unknown schools. And there's a lot of questions come up around how to solution this problem. Are we an ERP company? Are we CRM? Where should our service support lie? It was clear to me when we are a profit center in our support team. By default, if you're more profit than you are support, you should be part of your CRM. And that's definitely where Salesforce lies. We asked ourselves questions about sunk investment. What was interesting was the biggest challenges we had were from my chief operating officer, my CFO, and the ERP team that supports all of our current infrastructure. They're the ones who wanted to change. They wanted all the improvements. They wanted to delight the customer experience, but are also the biggest advocates for why. And lastly, we have applications today, but oftentimes we don't have native workflow available within them. And therefore, do we recode what we have, or do we buy new and try to invest? The other questions are around the cloud. Is the internet really ready for enterprise services? Can it keep up with our demands? Who is in control of my data? Is my data secure? And lastly, how do I get workflows from out in the cloud back to my on-prem devices? These were all the challenges I had to go through to solve how to find the best service solution today. I'm sure a few of you probably have had these in your own time. Here's the thing, guys. We actually have our own cloud services we sell customers, and we weren't drinking our own Kool-Aid. That was a big aha moment for a lot of the executives. I reminded them of that. 1/3 of our business is cloud service revenue, yet we don't have one of them internally. So our solution. Well, we did do we're a Microsoft shop. We did look at other opportunities. Service Cloud came out as the winner for many, many reasons. In the end, our solution gave us a full view of our customers and agents. We actually had to build a master customer repository of data. We've got cloud services, about 4 or 5 of them, all separate data centers. Our ERP and our CRM were all managing their own customer data. We actually had to build a master repository of customer data and then serve all these clients accordingly. Our detractors, the COO, the CFO, our biggest the guys we had so much trouble with trying to solve this problem, are now our biggest advocates. They get it. They see it. And they didn't. I'm telling you guys, it was a hard sell. Really hard. We got a scalable data model. We're actually poised to move to the next grade of cloud services with Salesforce around our field services business. Probably around a 1/5 of our revenue is field services, and we've got a body sitting in Lafayette, Louisiana. We've got a bunch of services all throughout Alberta, and none of them talk to each other. So by building the Salesforce or the Sales Cloud and Service Cloud portfolio, we're now poised to have the field services component to be added on top with very little change and change management. We've got now 5 major systems. So our services, our ERP, our CRM with one set of master data, clearly better data. To build that master repository of customer data, we had to sit there and grind over context of that data. We said before in the previous presentation about if data isn't clean, it's got no value. I'll tell you, go through that experience and you'll know that pretty clear. We've got a multiple channel now. We've got web to case, phone to case, text to case. We also can actually create cases from our services online as well. So many items to our solution. And this is the key for us. By building that master customer data model, it really did allow us to personalize our experience. If a customer calls in, it's Johnny or Sally from John's oil company, up will pop their persona. Up will show them all the services that they had with our customer. It will show them how many tickets they've got open. And tell us whether or not they're a top customer, top 10 customer. These are all the items that we need for us to be able to talk to that client. Just today, coming here from Edmonton, when I call downstairs to my hotel, I pick up that phone for the agent and they say, "Hi, Trevor, how are you? How can I help you?" That's now the experience we have with our customers, and that didn't exist before. And remember, a lot of our customers are field agents. They're foremen, they're field techs. We know who they are, and they're oftentimes very, very remote. Our results. Well, for those who have lived the experience of multiple systems, I'm telling you, you want to talk about making your agents happy? That top line is everything. It's the small things sometimes that makes the most impact on your crew. If you make your team happy, you'll be amazed how that passes itself on. Here's the thing. That was my motive before, delight my customer. I help my agents. I've improved my master customer data. And guess what I got? I got customers that come back in kind. So as a roll-up, I think there's 3 main points to remind us all. One is that we weren't drinking our own Kool-Aid. I think that's now happened today. It's funny how you can get bogged down into the old world, even though a big part of our revenue in our business is based upon cloud services. Other big things around master customer data, which Traction has helped us with, and provide that personalized experience. And last, that our customers are now delighted. Thank you.
So we're going to take the next few minutes working with my wonderful assistant, Sandy, to take you through the actual The peanut gallery back there. To take us through the actual application. So this is it. It's live on the internet. This is not a demo system or anything like that. So we know that some of you may not be very familiar with the Service Cloud application. So we're going to take a little bit of time and start at the beginning. This is the Service Cloud console. The console brings a whole number of things together. So that's all right at the agent's fingertips, up in the upper left-hand corner. Salesforce works with the concept of objects, so your accounts, your contacts, products, cases, those are all there if an agent needs to go and find anything. Then below that, we have the types of queues that the calls can be routed to. So one of the things that was on the slide, and we'll talk some more about, is the fact that at Zedi, there's probably between 250 and 270 discrete service tasks that are 1 to about 9 steps long in terms of delivery. So you've got 40, 50 agents. Some of them are definitely new. How do they learn how to do 250 to 270 discrete tasks and remember all that, right? Well, they don't. And so a lot of this is about how do you chunk up the work and put it to the right queue at the right time so people that have the right skill set can basically be looking at their cases as quickly as possible and keep track of all their work. And since we have all of that, we have these list views, and this is throughout the Salesforce application that makes it very easy to filter and find what you might want to look for. If you want to drill into the case, we have the case number, drill into the contact, the company, all those things are kind of right at your fingertips all the time. So we're going to go into a case. So this is begins to look more like what the agent will see on a day-to-day basis. They'll come in, they'll log in once, apparently, and their queue will be set up depending on how they're set up in the system as a user. They'll see their cases along the side. They'll be able to come in, they can start working on the case. We have a kind of highlights panel at the top of the screen that shows you some key data, so it's right there in front of the agent. If they want to get into more detail, for example, they can click on the account name, and that will then open up a tab and take them to the actual account so they can see more details about that account. And they can leave that open and just go back to the detail tab of the case, and that's no problem. If they want to see more details about the contact, they just click on that. It opens up a new tab. And now they can see the details of that contact. So for example, what kinds of cases have they called in before? The way you can set this up is that cases are linked to a contact, so you can see any cases that a contact had raised before, and cases are also linked to the account, so you can see all the cases related to an account. And Sandy, if he was the agent, would see pretty quickly that, okay, we're dealing with a pretty experienced person here. Or maybe they're not very experienced, and that's why they have so many cases. Hopefully they're experienced and they're looking after a system. So we can go back to the case record. Some of the things, we'll go in and edit the category stuff, right? So one of the things that we did was work with Zedi on all their workflows and the data they have to collect. And what became clear was that everything that they do revolves around this service call category and service call task. And by kind of doing some analysis, we realized that they've got a specific number, a fair number, but it is a finite number of categories that each case will fall into. So we start off by picking that. And then that then drives a whole bunch of other things in a hierarchical fashion. So then we can pick the task that it may have. So some of these have one, some have several. So in this case, we're going to do an inquiry. And let's see what else we might need there. It's about that product. And I think we're good to go. So we'll hit save. And oops, I forgot something. So we will see that throughout the system, we get prompted on if we forgot to enter something, it'll automatically go to the field and say, hey, I need this before you can continue. This is important. Sandy, I'm going to have you scroll down a lot. across these 250 service tasks, there's lots of discrete bits of information that have to be collected, but maybe only 2 or 3 depending on the service task. And so helping the agent know what item to collect by prompting them if they forget something just makes the agent's job a lot easier. And it also means that we're collecting the right data as soon as possible so that if we get to the case, the next day, we haven't lost the whole day because we forgot to ask something and then we have to get back to the customer and then we have to wait, and you don't want to go down that path. So we collect the appropriate data, we save the record, and now what's happened is that the case owner, that record is automatically put into the right team. And it's the combination of in this case, the category and the task and the product that helps drive what queue or what team should look at that. So no matter how the case is coming in, whether it's through a web form, whether it's direct email to case, whether it's over the phone, over time, this could be chat sessions, they can quickly and easily be guided through this hierarchical pick list to get them to the right queue so that they're going to the right set of agents as quickly as possible. What we are also working with, because of the Zedi is working with, sorry about that, with a lot of oil flow kind of things, and it's pretty time critical. If something's not working, they need to get it working again very quickly. And so we have a whole series of rules behind the scenes that will check the age of a case and then automatically escalate it and put it into a needs attention queue if it needs to be. And what we're going to kind of do it manually here. So there's this capability, and there's a whole bunch of stuff built into Salesforce around this field that comes right out of the box called escalated. So when a case becomes escalated, it automatically gets this red highlight. It can then be put into an escalation queue, and kind of all kinds of workflow things can happen automatically for the agent. So now we want to get some more information. Sandy's prompting me to move along. We're going to get some more information from this client that had come in originally by email. Sandy, can we just go back and we'll show that? So the case origin had been email. That was set automatically. The agent didn't have to worry about that. So we need to get a bit more information. So we're going to send them a formatted email back very quickly. So we'll just click there. We will select a template. These were all set up without any programming as such. We can use, we can do a fair bit of branding. It's not, probably a marketer's dream, but we can certainly put in banners. They have quite a rich text editor for formatting and that kind of stuff. The agent can go in and do some free-form typing to just ask for whatever they need. And then they'll just be able to hit send. This has a very powerful merge functionality, so we know the person it's going to. We don't have to bother looking anything up or typing anything in. We can control which queue it comes back to. We hit send. So now that'll go out, and we now have a record of, these are kind of the email transactions. So there was an email that was sent to us. The system immediately and automatically sends back a formatted template saying, thank you very much. We're glad that you sent us an email. And that's important because then the customer knows my email actually got to you, and I know when it got to you. And so there's no question about that. And then we see that we've sent out a request for some more information to the client. So Sandy should have that by now. And and so there's a formatted copy to them. And so he's just going to be able to hit reply because of this stuff that we put in the subject line. And so Salesforce automatically knows how to take that reply and associate it with a particular case, right? Otherwise, if you got 5 cases going and emails are going back and forth, what email goes to what case? They go ahead and do that. And if the internet's working well, that will come back. We'll just do a refresh. And has it come back in? Yeah, that's new. Okay, let's do a refresh again. It should, update the status, right? Yes. Okay. So one of the challenges of real-time explanations. So the status code now, we parse that email coming in actually and look for a few things, and then we can set the status to email received. And so now that agent knows, oh, great, I got the email back. I can continue working on that case. And so all these kind of things just means that the agent can spend more time focused on solving the problem, thinking about how they're working with the customer to provide a better customer experience. They're doing a lot less fighting of their own systems. In running a call center, a service center with 500 people, 10% attrition means that you have 50 people a year leaving. That's almost 10 people every month you've got to hire. So I was very, very concerned about what are the things that drive agent dissatisfaction as well as customer dissatisfaction. And fighting systems is definitely one of the things that just wear people out over time. I have to admit, I wish I had something like this 10 years ago when I was doing some of this stuff. It just wasn't there, and it was a shame. So, where do we want to go next, Sandy?
You do the reporting?
Yes, reporting, good. So, just before we, can you flip back, or did I lose you real quick? Okay, great. So again, just as an overview, I think one of the things that's very, very powerful is that in this console, because of the tab structure, you can have several cases open. So I can be working on a case, but let's say the phone rings. I actually can have a soft phone. It usually shows up down here. And so if I'm a phone agent, basically the call will come through. It will match on the phone number. It will do a screen pop. I can start working that case. And I don't have to kind of close anything off. I can just leave the case I was working on, immediately take a phone case or a chat case. So I can have that here as well. I can have my chat session going. I can have, if I'm really good, I could have 2 or 3 chat sessions going. All those cases can be opened in a nice organized tab structure. If I have to go look at an account, look at a person, look at a product, look at an asset in Zedi's case, all of that stuff is there at my fingertips. I call it 360 degrees and 45 degrees in terms of the angle of the screen. And I find it interesting that while Salesforce is talking about Mobile One and all this stuff on phones and everything, for the call center folks, they've given them the ability to use 2 displays, right, which is huge, side by side. So there's even more we could show here. I just want to give you that sense of richness and how that can help an agent just service a customer with a lot more ease. And so one of the benefits of having all the rules built in to collect data and have a lot of processes collecting data automatically is that your data is going to be a lot more reliable. It's going to be more complete. It's going to be validated. We can do some basic checking on formatting and that kind of thing, so that then when we run the reporting, we're going to have much better quality reports because they depend obviously on the quality of the data. And there's a tremendous richness in Salesforce reporting, including dashboards. So this is a dashboard. One of the great things about Salesforce actually is the app exchange. So there's tons and tons of things that people build, and they package them up and they put them on the Salesforce app exchange. And this is one of them. Salesforce does that. So rather than Sandy and I building all this, we basically just downloaded the App Exchange dashboard, installed it. I think it took maybe 10 minutes. And you have all this kind of stuff right out of the box. So that's a tremendous time saver for you. Everything that you have seen in this application did not need any.
No custom code.
There is no custom code. All configuration. I'm just trying to think if there was any tiny bits anywhere, but there isn't actually. There's some formula language being used, right? So if you know what a case statement is, if then, but that's the level of complexity. There's no kind of Java code or any of that kind of stuff. I'm not a coder, Sandy's not a coder as such. So what that means is that Zedi will be able to do the maintenance on this to a large degree themselves if they choose. We certainly we'll be happy to do it for you. But it also means that with the regular cycle of releases that Salesforce has, this will basically just upgrade to the next release and nothing will break, unlike a lot of other tools. So with that, we're certainly happy to take any questions you might have. Please.
What were your other largest kind of major competitors in terms of looking at the landscape aside from Salesforce?
That would be your question.
We are a
Competitors.
Microsoft shop, very deep, Microsoft and Dell. So we looked at Microsoft CRM as an example. Our ERP is Dynamics GP. We thought Microsoft CRM would be a good bolt-on to it, but we found that they were islands apart. And again, the real key for us was determining that since our call center was a profit center, it should live more into our CRM space than our ERP space. And since we already were with Salesforce in the CRM space, it was a pretty easy move. We want to be able to have the fuller conversation with the customers and sales around sales opportunities and open cases. The worst thing to do is go into a sales situation with a customer. You walk into an invoice or a contract with $3 million to sign the deal, and he says, "Oh, you got a dozen big open cases that haven't been fulfilled. What's going on?" That's happened more than once. Where they won't sign a deal because we haven't proven that on the service side we're there for them. At least now with Salesforce, Sales Cloud and Service Cloud, when they walk out the door, they know exactly what's going on with their customers. How many service points are sitting open, as well as the revenue opportunity as well. Very easy win.
And the other thing is the agents, basically we have it set up for a, if it's just a straight part order or something like that, it's literally 2 or 3 clicks and the opportunity is given over to the sales folks because it just sucks everything out from the case in terms of who it is and what product they have and that kind of thing to support that process as well. Other questions, comments?
Do you pay separately for the Service Cloud? Or is it included with the Salesforce?
It's part of the Salesforce licensing, but it's a separate licensing.
You pay for each seat separately for your
Correct.
service guys.
Yeah, you betcha.
You mentioned you had integrations with other applications. Does Salesforce bring with it its own middleware platform at all? Or?
Not directly. So with the help of Traction, we asked them for their guidance. What would be the best middleware to get us there? Boomi was one example that we decided to look at. In the end, our ERP had its own middleware called Smart Connect. And the nice part is that there's a published API in Salesforce for Dynamics GP. So with our already purchased Smart Connect, we were able to do the integrations without any challenge.
We're also seeing more and more with Salesforce's growth is that everybody else is realizing we got to have a connector to Salesforce. So you're seeing a lot more of that as well to help the data exchange. I know it's mid-afternoon after lunch. Other questions? Oh, great.
You mentioned you got buy-in from your top execs later on. What are the key things that they're getting out of Salesforce right now that gave them that complete buy-in?
Again, I think it was the larger picture around integration. So I mentioned before the COO was one of our biggest detractors in the beginning. Remember, before I was there in 2008, we were under $25 million company. All those applications, guess who built them? It was the COO who built most of that stuff. So here I was walking in saying, "It's not working anymore, buddy." Right? Who's this young kid walking in? And so that was the challenge, was how do I present a different idea, not hurt the ego, and still show him the benefit. Now, he's a personable guy, he gets it, but you just have to make sure you have a nice conversation, maybe over dinner, or make it easier that way. Once he figured out I wasn't there to destroy the world that he had built, but actually add a layer onto it, I think that was a pretty easy win. That was one of the biggest ones. Our CFO was also a challenge as well, but for different reasons. But that was the biggest struggle at first.
Can you share any estimate of return on investment time frame on this yet?
Oh yeah. So if you look back at what we've spent to get here and the time we took to get here, it's been immeasurable. So it took us, honestly, we used to have cases open for months, sometimes years, lost in the system. We had probably a 13% loss revenue just because we did the work, never billed anybody for it. Because in our ERP system, they were literally just weren't there, or they were so buried so deep in the system, nobody had the time to go look. Our call center is so busy right now that if we don't remind them what they didn't do or didn't finish and allow them to go in and have to run reports to figure out what isn't there, that's what's the challenge. They've got so busy on the front ends of delighting our customer that the administrative in the back end got lost. So with Salesforce, we're at 100%. Nothing gets lost. The system actually comes back and reminds the agent that something's still open. It doesn't, you don't have to go looking for it. It will help you do that. And one thing we haven't mentioned on our next release is going to be what we call advanced workflow, which is now not only just include the internal gates to solve our problems, our tickets, but now to actually include our customers and our field agents as part of the workflow. So the system will remind us when that workflow is complete, drop it back in the queue, the agent will pick it up and then continue on the next gate down the process.
Yeah, so one of the things we weren't able to show here is that there's a number of codes that get set that then work with the back end system, and so we're going to have this data connectivity. So basically, these two things will talk for billing purposes and updating the accounting system, and then we have a whole bunch of Salesforce has a thing called escalation processes that is about how aged a case is, and we have a whole bunch of rules set up so that literally, no case gets left behind or lost in the system. So that was part of our whole philosophy is how do you support the agents so that nothing gets forgotten about, and how do you always kind of keep customers informed in terms of what's going on as well with their case. So those are some of our guiding principles.
Transitioning into cloud, you mentioned about some challenges or concerns about data security or reliability of internet. How do you reflect on it right now?
Data security and reliability. I have thoughts about that, but go ahead.
Certainly, that was part of my role is, of course, assuring the organization that my data is not going to be lost. And so we do two things. One is in our integration component between Salesforce and our ERP, every item, every task, every click that occurs in Salesforce, we'll actually double entry on our on-prem side. So we've got two kind of components or two backups of our data, first and foremost. Secondly, we worked with Traction and with Salesforce on a number of encryption choices and opportunities to make sure that our data, for sure, as it transmits over the wire, isn't somehow hijacked in some way as well.
And then the other thing I would have you think about, it was, so quite a few years ago, I had to bring Crystal Decisions, several hundred people in Business Objects, several hundred people together, so off of two systems onto a third system. And I remember having conversations with our IT folks around, Dave, you guys work with large customers that run 724. Can you help us learn how to be 724? And I'm thinking, I shouldn't be teaching my IT department how to do this, right? But they hadn't need to be that way. So, I imagine there's a lot of you that don't necessarily have IT groups that are 724. You probably haven't checked your backups recently, if you're making them all regularly. What we forget about with stuff like this with Salesforce is just the tremendous infrastructure that they have in place so that this stuff runs nonstop forever. Because if it doesn't, they don't have a business. They're gone overnight, right? So the work in terms of all the backups, all the security, all the reliability, all the redundancy. When you buy a license, I know this is a commercial for Salesforce, but you need to think about that. All that kind of admin stuff, it's gone. You don't have to worry about it, right? You just load up the app and use it. So that's kind of how I think about some of that security stuff as well.
The other thing I forgot to mention is we're a 24/7 shop, but only from 7 till 6 is it done within Zedi. From 7 till the other 6, it's done outside of through a partner who's not on our prem at all. So we've worked with them around ensuring that their data is secure. They serve other clients than just us in that after-hour support. And so another avenue we had to work on as well with Traction as well. Again, the infrastructure, as Dave mentioned, is already there, so we were quite satisfied.
Other questions? Yes.
Hi. Yeah,
Hi.
just a continuation on what you were talking about a second ago.
Yeah.
After implementation, how much time in terms of people, or obviously whatever you're comfortable saying, but how much time do you spend maintaining this Salesforce system? Man hours, people committed, all of those things.
I'm glad you asked. So my role is not just to build product, but also to support that product once it's in place. So I've lost more than a few nights sleep over making sure that we are supported after traction is gone from the regular parts of our business. They're still there, of course, if we need them, but we want to be self-sufficient. And so I've worked with our Tier 1 support for our ERP side, has now taken on the challenge to become certified in the Service Cloud administration space as well, and has taken on it quite well. So when traction's done, we'll have a expert on-prem to support us in our long-term changes, whether it's workflow changes. We know when we go to multiple releases, we'll have to tweak the process a bit, the workflows a little bit. That's going to happen. I don't have to go every time to traction to say, can you help me out for an hour or two? We also have a Premier Plus service, which for those who may or may not know about it, it's a creative service with Salesforce. It gives you their agents on their locale. You can actually give them projects. If you said, here, I want to tweak this workflow, I can actually hand it to those agents as part of my license agreement, and they'll actually do the work for me. So it's not just on-prem, but I also have the Premier Plus service as well that get us there as well. And right now, we've had a backlog of work in our Sales Cloud side of it, probably 3 years deep. And they've been, over the last 6-7 months, have now been able to get us down to almost under a year. Just by that, I mean, it's not free, it's part of your license agreement, but it's a resource we've never had before, and it's expert resource. So we actually learn off that service as well.
And I guess one last comment before we wrap it up. So as we build these systems, we actually think about how the customer is going to be able to maintain it. And this comes down to like simple little things, like how do we name workflow rules so that when you go in and look at it, it's not some weird thing that you have no idea what this is, right? So that we don't want the customer mad at us because we're holding them hostage because we did all this fancy stuff that nobody can figure out. We do want it to be able to get transferred to the customer because we know in the long run they're going to respect us for that, actually. So I'm getting the hook. Get yourself a Starbucks card. Please think about effortless experience and how to make your customers and agent experience more effortless, because I really think it'll help improve your business. And please think about this tool as a way to do that. So thank you very much.
Thank you.